Okay, you've read every budgeting app, read all the personal finance books, and maybe even had a momentary victory of sticking to your spending plan. But then, inevitably, something happens. You slip up, you overspend, and you find yourself right back to where you started, frustrated, discouraged, and wondering what you're doing all wrong. What if I told you that the reason most budgets fail isn't about the numbers? It's not because you lack willpower or discipline. It's because you're missing one crucial element: a deep connection to your values. You see, most of us approach budgeting as a math problem. We crunch the numbers, allocate our funds, and then try to stick to the plan through sheer force of will. But willpower is a finite resource. It's not sustainable in the long run, especially if your budget doesn't align with what truly matters to you. And this is where the power of why really comes in. When you ground your financial decisions in your deepest values, suddenly sticking to your budget becomes less about deprivation and more about alignment. It's the difference between saying, I can't spend money on this, and I choose not to spend money on this because it doesn't align with what's important to me. Think about it like this. Let's say one of your core values is family connection. If you have a clear vision of wanting to save up for a big family vacation, suddenly passing up those impulse purchases becomes a lot easier. It's not about denying yourself, it's about choosing something you value more. On the flip side, if you value adventure and new experiences, a hyper-restrictive budget that doesn't allow for any fun or spontaneity is going to feel like a prison. You'll be fighting against your natural inclinations, and it's only a matter of time before you rebel. The key is to create a spending plan that honors your unique values, one that balances your short-term desires with your long-term vision. And the first step is to get crystal clear on what those values are. But before we dive into how to identify your values, let's talk a little bit about why traditional budgeting often fails. A lot of financial guidance operates on the assumption that we are all rational, logical beings who will make the right choice if given the right information. But behavioral economics tells a completely different story. We humans are complex creatures with a host of cognitive biases and emotional drives that shape our financial behavior. We're prone to present bias, where we prioritize instant gratification over future gains. We're influenced by social proof, often spending to keep up with our peers. And we are notoriously bad at predicting what will actually make us happy in the long run. All this means that a budget based solely on numbers and logic is likely to crack under the pressure of our very real human tendencies. It's kind of like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand. It might look sturdy at first, but it won't withstand the elements. But when we root our financial plan in our values, it's like anchoring that house on bedrock. Our values are the unchanging core of who we are and what we stand for. When our spending and saving choices flow from that place, they are infused with a sense of purpose and meaning. So how do we get to that bedrock? How do we uncover our deepest financial why? That's what I'm going to explore next on this new episode of Your Brain on Money. First, identify your core values. This is a huge process of self-discovery. It's about peeling back the layers of external influences and expectations to get at the heart of what truly matters to you. And there are a number of ways to approach this exploration. One exercise I love is the life satisfaction visualization, also known as the obituary test. Imagine it's the end of your life and you are looking back feeling completely content and fulfilled. What do you see? What mattered most to you? What was the experiences you had, the relationships you cultivated, the impact you made? Really let yourself sink into this vision. Notice the specific details and feelings that come up. You might see yourself surrounded by loved ones, feeling a deep sense of connection and belonging. Maybe you envision a life of adventure with lots of stamps in your passport and stories to tell. Or you might picture the legacy you've left, the ways in which your life has made a difference. As you do this exercise, pay attention to the themes that emerge. What threads run through your vision of a well-lived life? These are clues to your core values. Another way is to get clarity through a formal values assessment. There are many online. I'll link a couple in the show notes, but the basic idea is to reflect on what's most important to you in various categories of your life: relationships, career, personal life, and so on. Health, finance, etc. You might be presented with a list of values and asked to choose the ones that you resonate with most. Or you might be given prompts to reflect on the times that you felt most fulfilled and to extract the values those experiences point to. Some common core values that often come up are security, like feeling safe, stable, prepared for the future; freedom, having the autonomy and the flexibility to live life on your own terms; impact, making a positive difference in the world or in the lives of others; connection, nurturing deep, meaningful relationships; Maybe growth, continually learning, evolving, becoming the best version of yourself. This is a huge value of mine, for example. Or even joy, experiencing pleasure, happiness, satisfaction in your life. These are all great examples of common core values that people share. Your unique core values might include these or others. There's no right or wrong answer. The key is to really identify the principles that resonate most deeply with you, that feel like a true North Star for navigating your life's choices. As you go through this process, you might find that some of your values conflict with one another. For example, you might value both financial security and generosity. Or if you're like me, you might prize both adventure and stability. This is normal and even healthy. It reflects the multi-dimensionality of your life. We're multifaceted people. The goal isn't to eliminate these tensions, but to find a way to honor all of your values in a balanced way. So this might mean setting aside a portion of your income for donations or giving, even as you build your savings. Or it might involve planning for regular vacations, big and small, within the context of a stable home-based financial plan. The beauty of values-based budgeting is that it provides a framework for making these trade-offs in a way that feels aligned and intentional to you. So instead of feeling like you're constantly battling competing priorities, you can create a spending plan that gives voice to all that matters to you the most. And once that you've covered your core values, the next step is to really take an honest look about how your current financial reality aligns or doesn't align with those values. And, that's what I want to explore next, is the common disconnects that come with that. So let's say you've done the work of reflecting on your values. You have a sense of what matters most to you, what kind of life you want to build, but when you look at your current financial situation, you see a different story. Maybe there's a gap between your ideals and your reality. This is so common and so human. We all have disconnects between our values and our actions, places where our behavior doesn't match our intentions. And money is one of the most potent arenas, to me, where this disconnect plays out. One of the most obvious disconnects is between our spending patterns and our stated values. We might say our health is a top priority, but if we look at our bank statements, we see a lot of takeout orders and very little invested in self-care activities. Or we claim generosity is important to us, but we realize we're not making that much room in our budget for charitable giving. These disconnects often stem from a lack of conscious alignment. We haven't taken the time to really look at our spending through the lens of our values and to make intentional choices about where our money goes. Another really common disconnect comes from our societal pressure and expectations. When we're bombarded with messages about what success should look like, especially all over social media, or what we should want and have, that makes it really hard to align with our values. It's really easy to internalize these external values as our own, even when they don't really resonate with our authentic desires. We might feel like we need to live in a certain neighborhood or drive a certain car or have our kids go to a certain type of school to keep up with their peers or meet societal norms. But when we get quiet and honest with ourselves, we often find that these shoulds aren't actually in line with our deepest wants and needs. There can also be a disconnect between our short-term habits and our long-term goals. We might deeply value financial independence and the dream of retiring early, but our day-to-day choices of overspending, undersaving, even taking on debt are not in integrity with that vision. And like I said before, this disconnect really stems from a lack of clear plan and system for aligning our daily actions with our big picture objectives. We often haven't broken down our lofty aspirations or goals into concrete, manageable steps. And identifying these misalignments can bring up a lot of uncomfortable feelings, guilt, shame, maybe frustration, but it's really important to approach this process with compassion and curiosity. These disconnects are not personal failings. They are opportunities for growth and realignment. In fact, I believe our money struggles are often a great form of feedback, a sign that something is out of whack with our relationship with money. If you feel a chronic sense of financial stress or dissatisfaction, maybe it's because you are not living in alignment with your true values. And the good news about all this is that becoming aware of these disconnects is the first and most important step to creating change. Once we clearly see that we're out of sync, we can start to make different choices to build new habits and systems that support our deepest desires. So as you reflect on your own financial life, bring a spirit of open and loving inquiry into any gaps you notice. I think some questions that I recommend people often ask themselves when they go through this process is, what's the story behind this disconnect? When and how did it develop? What need or value is this misaligned behavior trying to meet, even if it is in an ineffective way? What would it look like and feel like to bring this area of my financial life into integrity with my values? And remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress, about continually orienting yourself towards what matters most. With each conscious choice, you create more alignment, more of the life you truly want. And that is the essence of value-based budgeting, which I'm going to dive into next. Okay, so what does a value-based budget actually look like in practice? How do you translate your core principles into a practical spending and savings plan? The exact details will vary based on your unique financial situation and priorities, but I'm going to outline a general framework to help guide you. The first step is to get crystal clear on your why, like I was saying before, your deepest values and the vision you have for yourself. I recommend actually writing these down, maybe even creating a vision board or a collage that really captures the essence of what you're moving towards. The more tangible and emotionally resonant you can make this, the better. Next, take a look at your current income and expenses. Many people find it helpful to track their spending for a month or two to get an accurate picture of where their money is actually going, as opposed to where they think it's going. As you review your spending, assign each expense category to one of your core values. For example, groceries and health insurance might fall under health. Savings contributions could link to security or freedom. Maybe supplies for a hobby of yours or an entertainment might connect to joy or creativity. You might find that some expenses don't seem to tie to any of your values. These could be potential prime candidates for cutting back or eliminating. I admit some things like renter's insurance might not perfectly align with your values right away, but if you think about them in the framework of security, for example, you'll find that a lot of them will ladder up to a wider value. And if they don't, that's a great thing to kind of look into. On the flip side, you might notice that some of your values aren't represented at all in your current spending. And this is a really great opportunity to redirect some of your resources into what truly matters to you. The goal here isn't to create rigid categories, but to start seeing your spending through the lens of your values. This awareness alone can be transformative. You start to experience a sense of choice and empowerment around your money rather than feeling controlled by it. And as you create your values-based budget, it can be really helpful to set up some decision-making filters. These are questions you can ask yourself before making a purchase to make sure it aligns with your principles. Some examples might be, does this expense support my physical and mental well-being? Will this purchase bring me any closer to my long-term vision of financial freedom? Is this really the best use of my resources to make a positive impact? Or maybe even, does this align with my commitment to learning and personal growth? By running your financial choices through these filters, you create a spending plan that's in integrity with your deepest desires. And here's the amazing thing, when your budget is aligned with your values, sticking to it becomes so much more natural and easy. It's no longer about deprivation or willpower. It's about choosing in each moment to honor what's most important to you. You start to experience the joy and satisfaction that comes with using your money in a way that's deeply meaningful. Of course, life is always changing and evolving. Your values and priorities might shift over time as you grow, and your circumstances might change. And that's why it's really important to approach a values-based budget as an ongoing practice, not a one-time event. That's why I really recommend having regular money dates with yourself or with your partner if you share finances. You can use this time to review your recent spending, reassess your values and goals, and make any necessary adjustments to your plan. During this time, you can ask yourself, are my current financial choices in alignment to what matters most to me? Have any of my priorities or circumstances changed? Or what's working well in my financial life right now? Or what could use some tweaking? This regular reflection and realignment keeps your budget feeling fresh and relevant. It becomes a living tool for designing your life rather than a stagnant set of rules. And as you engage in this ongoing process, be patient and compassionate with yourself. Remember that you are undoing years, possibly decades of conditioned habits and beliefs about money. It takes time to rewire these patterns and create new neural pathways. That's why I could not recommend enough celebrating your progress, no matter how small. Every conscious choice, every value-aligned action is a step in the right direction of your dreams. Trust that as you keep showing up to this practice, you are cultivating a deeply fulfilling relationship with your money and life. And that is the real magic of values-based budgeting. It's not just about the numbers, it's about using your money in a way that feels profoundly good, that supports your growth and happiness, that contributes to the kind of world you want to live in. And that's a budget that you can truly get excited about. Okay, so maybe you're feeling inspired to create your own values-based budget. That's amazing. Here's some practical tips I recommend for anybody to get started. Number one is to block out some time for self-reflection. Find a quiet space where you can tune into your inner world. Maybe you want to set the mood with some candles and music or, whatever it helps you to feel centered and open. Number 2 is do a values clarification exercise. This could be the life satisfaction visualization I was talking about earlier, or a formal values assessment, or just journaling about what matters most to you. Don't censor yourself. Let your authentic desires kind of flow out onto the page or wherever. And number 3, review your current spending patterns. Gather up your bank statements, credit card bills, any other financial records from the past few months. Look at where your money has been going with curious, non-judgmental awareness. Number 4, assign your expenses to your values. I talked about this earlier, but as you do it, go through each spending category. Ask yourself, which one of my core values is this support? If you cannot find a clear link, consider whether this expense is truly aligned with your priorities. And number 5, now you can finally create your values-based budget. Based on your reflections, allocate your income in a way that feels balanced and aligned. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, but intention. You're aiming for a spending plan that honors all of what's important to you. Number 6, set up your decision-making filters. Write down the questions you'll ask yourself before making a non-essential purchase. This can help limit impulse spending. Post these somewhere visible, like on your fridge or in your wallet, as a regular reminder. Number 7, schedule regular money check-ins. Put time in your calendar each week, each month, each quarter to review your spending, reassess your values and goals, and make any necessary adjustments. Treat these check-ins as sacred appointments with yourself and your financial well-being. A couple tools that can kind of help support you through this process is a journal or notebook that can help with self-reflection, a budgeting app or spreadsheet to track your income expenses, maybe even an accountability buddy to share your progress and intentions with. There's lots of books, podcasts, or courses on value-based money management that can help you with continued learning or even just inspiration. And if you want, you might want to consider getting a financial coach or even therapist for just guidance and support, especially if you're working through significant money blocks or challenges. And I know I've said this before, but as you embark on this journey, approach it with the spirit of curiosity and self-compassion. You are very likely to encounter some internal resistance, some discomfort, maybe even some fear. This is completely normal and natural. Changing your relationship with money touches on deep psychological and emotional terrain. When you bump up against these edges, take a moment to breathe and reconnect to your why. Remind yourself of the life you've been creating, the values you're honoring, and the person you're becoming, and then take that small step forward. Creating a values-aligned financial life is a process, not a destination. It asks you to show up again and again to your highest intentions and to course correct when you're inevitably veer off track. But with each choice, each action, you're strengthening your money mindset muscles and creating new possibilities. So trust the journey, trust yourself, and know that every step you take is bringing you closer to a financial reality that truly nourishes and supports the life you want to live. So to recap, the key to a successful budget is not about the numbers. It's about ensuring your spending aligns with your deepest values. When you ground your financial choices in what truly matters to you, sticking to your plan becomes natural, even joyful. Remember to identify your core values, review your current patterns, and create a values-based budget. Maybe even setting decision-making filters, and of course, having regular money check-ins. It's a process of ongoing reflection and realignment. I hope this perspective has given you a new lens on budgeting. If you found it helpful, I would love if you shared it with somebody else, and be sure to subscribe for more Money Mind insights.